Can you just please elaborate your statement na NBI should look into former President Duterte's kill threat against senators?
Well, it's so disheartening, no, for public officials, especially those who have served as our president, to say these things, no, to threaten. I mean, say na mas madali lang sabihin na patayin na lang natin yung mga senators. In the past, we've heard him threatening illegal pushers, drug syndicates, etc. Napatahin itong mga illegal drug lords, tsaka mga illegal pushers. But he mentioned that he made those threats in the context of the war against drugs, to curb, to free our streets from the illegal drugs syndicate. But this time it was said in a context where he has candidates, and there are also candidates on the other side running for the same position. So medyo hindi siya, para sa akin, it's really it should concern all of us, because hindi dapat man normalize yung salita na patayin, or even sa mga, if you go to mga airports naman, di ka naman talaga po pwedeng mag-bomb joke yung bomb threat na jokes, kasi automatically you'll be, mapupusasan ka. How much more, for example, for say that out in the public. But it's the issue really, my point that I'm trying to drive at is, if you're an individual who enjoys or wields a certain influence, you have to be more circumspect about what you say, because people, your followers, may think na seryoso ka. That's why, pag sinasabi na joke, when will it end? We don't know which one is joke and which one is not. So I think we have to be more circumspect about how we say things out in the public, especially if the occasion calls for a choosing of new leaders in the country. So yun yung aking position doon at pananaw, na hindi dapat agad-agad natin ma-normalize at ma-trivialize yung mga threat na dali-dalian mo lang sabihin, pumatay or patayin.
Thank you, sirs. Tina Panganiban Perez from GMA7, you're recognized for today's first question.
For impeachment process, Representative Rog Gutierrez. Sir, former PCGG Special Counsel Generillo has filed a petition for mandamus before the Supreme Court to compel the Senate to constitute itself into a Senate impeachment court and proceed with a trial against Vice President Sara Duterte, citing the phrase "shall forthwith" in the Constitution. Your thoughts po?
Well, nabanggit na po natin ito, no? Naitanong na po dati kung ano po talagang ibig sabihin ng forthwith, and ang tendency po, we agree with the luminaries, pag sinabing forthwith, ang ibig sabihin po nito ay kaagad. Kaagad-agad. So, in line with that, I guess ito, yung taong bayan na po mismo, or at least one interested party, nag-file na po ng mandamus. Para sa kinalaman po ng lahat, ang mandamus po ay isang action dito sa Supreme Court in which ito ay relief na humihingi na aksyonan na po ng isang agency or branch of government ang isang bagay na dapat aksyonan. So, ibig sabihin nito, kapag nakikita ng isang tao na ang isang bagay responsibilidad na dapat aksyonan ng agency or branch, they seek relief with the Supreme Court. Mandamos po yung ginagamit. So, dito po, nakikita po natin na according to, sino po yung petitioner, ma'am, if I may ask?
Sir, former PCGG Special Counsel Generillo. Catalino Generillo.
So, dating lingkod rin po naman pala sa gobyerno, sa PCGG, they saw it fit to seek redress before the Supreme Court to ask or to mandate the Senate to proceed with the impeachment trial. So, yun po yung ibig sabihin dito ng mandamos. Now, additional comments lang po siguro. Personally, well, as we've always mentioned po, kami po, nire-respeto po namin ang stand ng Senate bilang they have the sole authority and responsibility in relation to the subject of impeachment as convening as the impeachment court. Ngunit, as a personal opinion, ako po, naniniwala po dun sa panig ng ibang mga luminaries na yung forthwith provision ng Constitution would mean agad. And I think that's what the Mandamos petition is talking about. And so I would tend to agree with that petition po.
Sir, kumusta na po yung preparations ng prosecution panel?
Ongoing naman po. Admittedly, there are difficulties in the sense na dahil hindi pa po gumagalaw yung Senado, wala pa pong rules, hindi pa po namin alam more or less kung ano po ang mangyayari or what kind of proceedings they would require. So, as out of abundant caution, ang ginagawa po namin sa prosecution team ay general preparations for all scenarios po. Whether we're talking about yung timeline, whether we're talking about which processes would be allowed and disallowed, whether the help or the engagement of external counsel would be allowed, we're preparing for all situations po. Admittedly, kapag gumalaw na po yung Senado, at least preliminarily, at least regarding to the rules, kapag meron na po tayong mas idea kung which processes would be adopted from yung rules of court, which processes would be dealt without, I think that would be easier for us in the part of preparation. But in the meantime po, general preparation po yung ginagawa namin.
Sir, still for Kong Rog, on another topic, kasi may sagot po si Representative Pantaleon Alvarez sa comment nyo on the case he filed about the budget. I-quote ko lang po, ang sabi po niya, naiintindihan natin na minsan tingin ng Congress, korte sila, lasing sa kapangyarihan. Lalo na noong panahon ng Quadcom, kita nyo naman ayaw lang ng sagot mo, contempt ka kaagad, ipakukulong ka pa sa correctional facility kahit na may detention area naman ng House of Representatives. Pero tandaan natin, judicial power belongs to the court and not to Congress. Dito ang nangyaring krimen, nag-insert sila ng mga numero na iniba yung ibig sabihin ng legislative document. Go
And
ahead.
this was in relation to our statements po, no? From previous press con. Tama
Yes,
po ba?
sir.
Well, we respect siguro po the opinion of the good congressman. Ang sa tingin ko lang po ay I'm not sure where that is coming from po. Kasi yung comments niya po, I remember it's likening the Congress to a court na there was mention of probable cause po, no? Pero if I recall our statements correctly, we were talking about yung personal motivations that might accompany it, the timing of the case. Hindi pa naman po kami dun sa merits of the case itself. So, wala naman po kaming sinasabi dun sa probable cause. At least ako personally, yung if I recall correctly, yung binabanggit ko is the timing of the filing of the case. Bakit na ngayon lang po? So, definitely, we don't want to prejudge no, kung merong probable cause mo or hindi. In fact, what we mentioned, if I recall correctly, is that we welcome po, no, we respect the right of anyone, not just the good congressman, but anyone who would like to seek redress before the courts. So, tama naman po yung ginawa niya. It's just that we don't agree. Personally, I don't agree with the mode and I don't agree with the timing po, no? I mean, there was just doubt regarding that. But then for that response po, no, I feel like nalilis po ulit yung issue instead of answering it head on po, no? But again, we respect it. So at the end of the day, nandun naman po yung kaso na file na po nila. So if we're going to talk about the merits, let's just see what they decide na lang po siguro.
Sir, you mentioned yung timing. May sagot po siya doon. Ang sabi niya, nalaman lang nila yung insertions January 18. Tapos pinag-aralan nila yung issue. But they were able to come up with a complaint within 2 weeks.
Opo. So if that is the answer to the timing, then I suppose we take their word for it. We don't want to color it with any malice or bad faith po, no? We take the statements as it is. Yung sa akin lang po, it's just that the timing that it would come out after the news of the impeachment, yun lang po naman yung naitanong po namin dito last time. And it's not even about probable cause po, no? Yung tanong lang po namin talaga is just the timing in general. But if more importantly, if satisfied po yung taong bayan sa sagot na yun, then I guess we'll take it for as it is po, no? On face value.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tina. Mela Lismoras from PTV4.
Hi, good morning po, Kong Zia, Kong Rog. Unahin ko lang po kasi naka-calendar na nasa house calendar na sa website yung TRICOM hearing bukas. May I just ask, ano po yung susunod na magiging hakbang ng House TRICOM kaya sakaling magpatuloy nga hindi pagdalo ng social media influencers and vloggers na nauna ng hinaina ng show cause order ng committee. And just to highlight, bakit po ba mahalaga yung pakilahok nila dito nga sa nagpapatuloy na investigasyon?
Meron natang show cause order na those invited guests who did not appear in the second committee hearing. So if there's no valid reason for their absence again this time, baka umakyat na yan sa siya nag-show cause order and then baka isupina na sila. I think the issue that the TRICOM is now discussing is very much important kasi ang age po natin talaga ngayon is it's information technology and we are using the internet as a space to exchange ideas and inputs. And sometimes, lalo na pag ganitong campaign period, talaga nagagamit ito to propagate fake news. I think all of us should agree that we need to regulate this, the dissemination of malinformation, disinformation. And the invited guests who are supposed to appear in last committee hearings are very active in the online discourse, and we hope that we can get some inputs that they might like to share to the committee, so that we can formulate a much enabling law that would really reflective of the need to regulate itong open space in the internet. So sa akin lang, it's not really an issue. There's no reason for them to skip again the committee hearing. Dahil ito naman ay pinapakinggan naman natin ng lahat ng punto, no? Hindi naman we're not actually running after these bloggers. We just hope that we can give them the proper venue where they can actually share their inputs, and so that we can also propose a legislation in order to regulate to counter the propagation of this hindi mo mapulis na paglaganap ng malinformation and disinformation. Why is it important? Because democracy should be based on the information should be based on actual facts. We have to provide the public with accurate information so that they can derive a well-meaning opinion. Hindi dapat based on something that isn't true. So I think that is the very anathema of how we uphold democracy. Kung ang mali ang impormasyon, mali talaga ang magiging opinion ng bawat tao, and that would reflect on the kind of system that we would have in the coming days or in the coming years.
I think nabanggit naman po ni Chairman Adyong most of the points, no? I agree that yung ating mga vloggers that did not attend, show cause order naman po yung na-issue, and there will be other remedies later on, like subpoena, should they choose not to attend. But we really do feel that importante po na mag-attend po sila kasi nga po yung pinag-usapan po dito ay yung, I think, lahat naman po tayo ay magsasang-ayon na masama naman po talaga yung fake news, misinformation, malinformation. Kasi nga po, even kahit magkabilang panig po tayo kung ano-ano mga bagay, kung politika for example, no one can agree naman po na good for the country ang fake news. Relying on such tactics po talagang it's to no benefit to anyone. As we saw nga po sa previous hearing, kahit po there are personalities admittedly have different opinions on things. I believe it was a Chair Ace and there was a private person there, si Ms. Tikia, I think. And they had a productive discussion on po, which was helpful to the committee. It was very enlightening. So I think we have to reiterate po yung aming imbitasyon sa mga vloggers na ito, yung mga other personalities that were invited, that we're just looking for a proper discourse. Especially in consideration, why I think it's important is that we're already touching on the surface yung tinatawag na foreign interference. Nabanggit po ito by one of the resource persons, I think it was Press 1, na there was a link between misinformation and allegedly Chinese-owned accounts, Chinese backing. There is allegedly a link between Chinese backing of misinformation in the West Philippine Sea and political campaigns for certain individuals in the country. So I think doon pa lang very important. I think another issue that we have to discuss thoroughly sa TRICOM is yung commercialization po ng vloggers. Freedom of speech, understandable po yun. It's a right of everyone. Pero pag binibenta mo na po yung iyong salita para sa salapi, di ba? If you are selling your opinion to the highest bidder, and if that highest bidder is a foreign entity, I think there should be some limitations. There should be some punitive actions po, no, in relation to that. And I think that's why especially important in TRICOM. Yung problem with the previous in past years, masyadong nasanay po yung tao sa fake news. Nasanay na po tayo sa hyperbole. Nasanay na po tayo sa pagbibiro na we can't take anything seriously anymore. So that's one more thing. We have to be accountable for our words. I think yun lang po yung bottom line ng TRICOM. Yun na po.
Okay. And another question lang po, speaking, may mga nabanggit na kayong China, politika. Tanong ko lang din po sana yung reaksyon nyo dun sa mga naging matapang na pahayag ni Pangulong Marcos sa campaign rally ng Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas sa Carmen, Davao del Norte, kung saan na hinikayat niya yung mga kandidato na ng administrasyon na sinabi niya ngang walang bahid ng dugo ng mga biktima ng EJK at hindi sunod-sunuran sa China. Hinikayat din ng presidente yung mga botante na wag hayaang bumalik muli ang bansa sa panahon ng dilim at lagim na tila tumutukoy sa nakaraang administrasyon. Ayon mismo sa Pangulo ay pumayag na gawin umano nga probinsya ng China ang Pilipinas. Ibinugaw ang ating bayan bilang sugalan ng mga dayuhan at hinayaang umapaw ang dugo ng mga inosenteng mga bata na inagawa ng kinabukasan dahil sa kanilang pagpatay. Ano pong masasabi niyo dun?
Ako po, I think we welcome those remarks. Personally, gaya ng sinabi po natin in the last press con, it's about time po naging issue-based po tayo, especially for elections. Hindi na po tayo personality politics. During the last time that we had this discussion, I believe yung pinag-usapan natin dito ay kung ano yung stance po ng senador tungkol sa impeachment complaint. And now we have brought to the fore other issues po. No? Ano ang stance ng ating mga senador sa EJK? Ano ang stance ng ating mga senador sa China, sa West Philippine Sea? And I think it's a good thing. It is well appreciated po siguro na na-highlight po ito ng ating presidente. I'm not saying po no that it should resort to, kasi yung iba po, based on those statements, may nagsasabi na smear campaign. I don't think it's smear campaign when we're just talking about issues po, no? We're talking about issues. How do these candidates feel about these issues? Where do they stand? So, I think it's very important now na sa taong bayan, dapat maalala po natin yung mga issue na ito kapag nagboboto na po tayo, bumuboto. We have to consider po where their stances. General statements naman po yun, but they are powerful statements. I think it really highlights po the need to really look into the credentials, not just yung achievements, but their stances po rin po talaga. So, personally, unfortunately, nagiging malaking headliner po yan, Team Pilipinas versus Team China. And syempre, doon tayo sa Team Pilipino, di ba? Team Pilipinas tayo. So, suriin po talaga natin kung ano po talaga yung stance natin. There will be a lot of campaign promises. There will be a lot of statements na he said, she said. But at the end of the day, saan po talaga sila talagang nakatayo? Yun po, I guess, yung issue doon.
But in addition to that, I think the president is coming from a position where the effects of these bad policies, the effects of this we still continue to feel it. No? Being the president, meron naman siyang access doon sa nagyari na mga policy na hindi talaga epektibo. So I think that's where the president wants to be very clear about it, na there are certain issues and policies before that up to now, nakikita natin yung effects, yung effect ng West Philippine Sea, the aggression of China against our fishermen, at sa Coast Guard, the effect of the POGO in the previous administration, hanggang ngayon, niraramdaman natin yon, at marami pang iba, no? So I think the president wants to track a direction where these possible senators, no, and mga candidates would have to really draw the line whether they want to pursue his administration's policies of, number one, we can curb illegal drugs and illegal syndicate without even making so many bodies lifeless in the streets. There are certain policies that we can implement without necessarily resorting to violence. That's number one. Where do you stand on this ground? Number two, when it comes to the incursion of China, where do you stand on this ground? Would you be for the Philippines and protecting the integrity of the country, or where do you be koto to the Chinese incursions? So I think this is a very clear position where the president wants to educate the public that, the effects of the past policies of the past administration hanggang ngayon nararamdaman natin, and we're doing so much to addressing those questions. So ako naniniwala ako dun sa stand ngayon ng presidente na sa panahon ngayon ang politika hindi dapat tama nga yung sinabi ni Kong Rog, hindi dapat siya personality based. The people should be given information, and the accurate information, so that they can decide on their own, not based on which person they would prefer to see there in the Senate, but based on the candidates' stand on certain important national issues.
Opo, and sorry, last na po, Kong Sia. Just a quick follow-up. You have a statement din po kahapon about, just to have it on record, can you just please elaborate your statement na NBI should look into former President Duterte's kill threat against senators?
Well, it's so disheartening, for public officials, especially those who have served as our president, to say these things, to threaten. Say na mas madali lang sabihin na patayin na lang natin yung mga senators. In the past, we've heard him threatening illegal pushers, drug syndicates, etc. Napatahin itong mga illegal drug lords, tsaka mga illegal pushers. But he mentioned that he made those threats in the context of the war against drugs, to curb, to free our streets from the illegal drugs syndicate. But this time it was said in a context where he has candidates, and there are also candidates on the other side running for the same position. So medyo hindi siya, para sa akin, it's really it should concern all of us, because hindi dapat man normalize yung salita na patayin, or even sa if you go to mga airports naman, di ka naman talaga pwedeng mag-bomb joke yung bomb threat na jokes, kasi automatically you'll be, mapupusasan ka. How much more, for example, for say that out in the public. But it's the issue really, my point that I'm trying to drive at is, if you're an individual who enjoys or wields a certain influence, you have to be more circumspect about what you say, because people, your followers, may think na seryoso ka. That's why, pag sinasabi na joke, when will it end? We don't know which one is joke and which one is not. So I think we have to be more circumspect about how we say things out in the public, especially if the occasion calls for a choosing of new leaders in the country. So yun yung aking position doon at pananaw, na hindi dapat agad-agad natin ma-normalize at ma-trivialize yung mga threat na dali-dalian mo lang sabihin, pumatay or patayin.
Yes, reaction lang po, according to the latest results of the Tangere survey, 73% of Filipinos daw would prefer na humarap si Vice President Duterte sa impeachment trial. So that's like 3 out of 4 Pinoys. Your thoughts po?
I think it's a true reflection na lang po, no, siguro. Nandiyan na, may survey na po na that doesn't speak po siguro on the support or not of the impeachment. It just really speaks about the trial itself. At kung gusto ng taong bayan ay magkaroon na tayo ng trial. The issues are very clear, the questions are clear, and I think all we need now are the answers and the proper venue that they have always sought. As mentioned before, these issues, hindi po yan bago sa atin. We've had our hearings in the budget. Hindi naman po na we were not afforded the opportunity with the appearance and the answer. We had our good government committee. Didn't afford us also yung appearance and answer. Not the proper venue daw po. When it came to the Quad Committee and questions on certain aspects of the EJK, did not appear, or when she appeared, hindi po the proper venue. chose not to take the oath. All of these roundabout ways only to say po na parang hindi po yung proper venue. Ngayon po, we have the opportunity. An impeachment court is the proper venue. 73% of the Filipinos agree that this is the venue. Dapat na po siyang tumayo dito and to answer these allegations and to finally put to rest all of these allegations. Whether ako, personally, of course, as part of the prosecution, I believe in this case. I believe na that we can establish guilt. But for most of the Filipino people, whether we succeed in establishing guilt or not, at least to clear the air already po, stand and be answerable for this. And I don't know if that survey would have any effect kasi as it stands, nakalimbo pa po tayo, hindi po nako-convene yung impeachment court. But I think that's just to be expected po yung survey results. Wala namang may gusto na may tanong na hindi na isasagot po, no? I think it's very clear to the Filipino people and we want answers. Yun lang po.
In addition to that, I think in the bar of public opinion, it validates why the House of Representatives says most of all the members of the prosecution that it has to be the impeachment trial has to proceed, no? As what the framers of the constitutions say, no? There's a difference between how do we quantify, how we define an actual term, no? In actual timeline, yung word na forthwith, no? I think the framers of the Constitution, as supported by this 73 survey, says that impeachment trial is so important that it has to proceed without any delay. So nagsasabi lang yan, it only validates what the Constitution says na forthwith without any delay. Again, but again, we still maintain our position that the House of Representatives with our prosecutors will work according to the timeline that would be set by the Senate once they convert the institution itself into an impeachment court.